And continues to be one of the best in terms of economic growth for 2012. Our exports are a big boost to the country's drive to be among the best performing economies in the world at a time when the most developed countries or developed economies are facing problems of a debt crisis and the possibility of recession. Tonight with us we have Mr. Sergio Ortiz, President of Philippine Exports. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, what is actually the projected target of Philippine exports for 2012?
Our target for the year is a 9 to 10% growth. However, in the month of August, when the total from January to August was only 5.4%, we thought we are not going to meet it. But happily, this September, electronics had a big rebound. Coming from a negative of early on this year of minus 20% plus, it's now positive 1%. So yeah, if that keeps up, which brought us of 7.2%, I think, from January to September. If this keeps up and electronics continue to perform like this, then there is still a chance for the next 3 months that our average might be lifted for the year to 9%.
Yes, sir. So comparing this to Asia, our growth remains to be positive. Why is this so?
Well, the market for electronics seems to be improving from the beginning of the year, or since last year. It is being propped up by the non-electronics export. But for the first time, it has been contributing, and therefore, in spite of the fact that many of the non-electronics sector are suffering or are going down because of, among the other problems, also the strengthening of the peso, suddenly electronics came very strongly and brought up the average higher than expected.
So you've mentioned the non-electronics, some of these, sir, which are you said are suffering right now.
Well, most of our exporters, a big number of our exporters are small and medium exporters, and these are what we call the indigenous exporters, meaning products which are indigenous to us, basically coming from our forest, agriculture, and marine products. They are basically small and medium driven export, and a big number of our exporters, I would say 98% of our exporters belong to this category.
How about the Philippine labor force, sir? How is it doing right now?
Well, in the month, because the higher employer are really the small and medium and indigenous exporters, I think since the peso started appreciating since May, many of them has been downsizing, and some of them has even been closing down, and therefore the employment in the export sector has been going down. However, the services sector in the export, which is the BPOs, the call centers, if you may, this is continuously going up. They are not that much affected by the strengthening of the peso, because most of them are paid in pesos, or they have adjustment clauses in their contracts. However, many of them are also saying that below 41 exchange rate, their principals or their contracts might be subject to question, and the contracts they might prefer to outsource in other countries like Vietnam. The electronics, the semiconductor also, which is in the past has been more than 60% of our export, was down to less than 40. I think because of their performance now and because of the problems of the indigenous export, they might be going back to that number. Nothing against the electronics, but I think it is better that we grow the small and medium and indigenous export in percentage because they are the heavier employer, and it should be the backbone of the industry.
So, sir, mentioning earlier agriculture, though electronics is our leading top export, how about the agriculture, coming from agriculture, how many percentage do we get from this?
Well, in numbers, electronics is number one. It's followed by varied agricultural products lumped together, marine products, agricultural products, all sorts, no? Mm-hmm. But the better performer, I think agriculture probably would be about 15% of our export. The other big performers are the metal sector, the garment sector are the bigger performers also.
Consider this as our best sellers, and how are we doing with our exports, basically to US, to Singapore?
Well, the market is still bad in the US and in Europe. It has improved quite a lot in Japan. In the last 2 years or the last 3 years, the biggest grower really is the China market in our Asian neighbors. In the past, the U.S. had a share of about 32 to 34% of our export. Now they're down to about 15 or 16%. And Europe also is down. They're ably replaced by our Asian neighbors, especially China, which I think in that distant future will be our #1 export destination.
So, sir, you mentioned earlier that we have also like agriculture and other small, what we do for exports. There are some sectors suffering. So what else is being done, or what else can be done to boost exports in other sectors?
Well, for the indigenous exporters, which is very susceptible to pressures on the exchange rate, I think there's got to be some policy that the exchange rate should be beneficial to them, no? Mm-hmm. And I think the government is trying to address this. There's too much influx of hot money going on to the Philippines. Mm-hmm. For the first reason is we have a high interest rate here, higher than most of our neighbors or destination of capital. They can earn much more placing their money here. So that is why Bangko Sentral already put in a watch list foreign money coming into what we call the special deposit accounts, mm-hmm. or the SDAs, because that is meant higher interest there. And you will notice that we are best performer in the stock market, because we don't have regulations here like where our neighbors, they try to temper the influx of hot money or portfolio investment, because they are dangerous at times and they can be harmful to the economy, because they can move in an hour. In one split second, it can destroy the economy. And they're very careful with that. We don't have those safeguards here. Mm-hmm. And that is why I think we're also the biggest grower in the stock market. We have to remember, though, that portfolio money do not create jobs necessarily. They are here to make easy bucks, profit from being in the stock markets.
Sir, you've mentioned the exchange rate earlier. There are certain projections that the exchange rate will see the peso appreciating, and a dollar may be equivalent to less than 40 pesos. Are you concerned about this, and should the value of the dollar stay at 40 to make it more competitive?
Well, let's put it this way. For the last 3 years, many of these offshore banks and many of these would be doing predictions have predicted as much as in 2010 to 37.50 or 39 in 2011. They also said that during this time that the next year will be that. Never happened. because I think we always take that with a grain of salt, those statements, because they are not asked for. There is no reason, and we don't see any scientific basis for those. Most of the time they will say because the influx of the OFW money will be coming in, and therefore the peso will strengthen. Most of the time that's what they say. But to us, I think from lessons in the past, they are more of advocacy statements because that is where they make money, or that is where their principals make money, and that's why they try to drive it, because in the Philippines, the exchange, the dealing system can be dominated by single accounts. It's not so big that statements like this can be self-fulfilling, meaning if an ordinary taxi driver, for instance, hear that the exchange rate will be 39 to $1, immediately the $500 that he has in his pocket he will sell. And it's what we call hot pandesal mentality. All of us follow this, and it becomes self-fulfilling. But I think even the president saw into this in 2010 when two offshore banks made this prediction, and the president says no. I think it will stay in the vicinity of 41 to 43, and I think that is what the regulators try to manage that range. And I think even now we can see that the regulators are very worried about this problem, because it's dangerous also to bring the peso to those level, and they're doing what they can in this area.
All right, so we'd love to talk more about that, but thank you so much for joining us tonight on NewsLife. That is Mr. Sergio Ortiz, President of PhilExport. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.